The problem that we had was that this wheel at the back here, I'll just point to it with a screwdriver. This wheel here locked up, the bearing locked up, and it wouldn't slide, it wouldn't turn, so it was just sliding on this chrome silver strip here. And initially we thought, oh, it just needs a bit of oil, and we sprayed a bit of oil on it, but then actually we found that it just slid on this chrome piece, and so we got some new wheels on the internet, and since we were going to have to replace this unit, we decided we'd replace the bottom unit as well, and that top unit there. So just in terms of showing you how to do this, I'm not going to show you each individual step, but I'll just explain what we did. And so if you can understand how this works, as I find with most things, if you can understand how it works, you can figure out how to do it. So the first thing we did was we removed the stopper over here. So there's a black plastic stopper that unscrews there. This is that black plastic stopper on the end there. Most of these screws are Torx screws, so you need a Torx set. And then just inside here, there's a little stopper there, which you need to get past. So first thing is we undid this stopper, then we undid this here from the bottom of the door, and then we slid the door back along the rail, two people, one holding each end, and we slid it past this stopper in here and then out into this zone between that first stopper and this black end piece. That then allowed this runner here to come across into line up with this gap that you see here, and when it gets to there, it can come down and slide out, and then you can push the door further so that it goes past this point here, and then the door comes off. Now the door is most likely, well, my door anyway, is a self-contained unit, so there's no wires to disconnect or anything on this door, but just check yours. It has electrical connectors at different points on the inside of the door that then connect up here, you can see on the inside of the frame, so that's how it gets its power. Now to get the old one of these out, we had to undo the step. We couldn't get this last screw here undone. It seems to be a little bit worn. It is an old van, it's a 2004. So we undid these other screws. We were able to lift this up a little bit, which then allowed us to just slide that out, and otherwise we just slide it back in, and it sits in between. You can see there's a couple of little places there. It sits in between there, like that. I don't know how well you can see that there, just in there. When you buy this kit of all these rollers, including the brackets, you need to make sure that you are buying for the correct side of the door. So our door is on the left hand side of the van, so we needed a left hand set. The key issue is that this piece here, you see it's got an L on it. That's for a left hand door, because on the left hand door it goes this way, turns there, and then in like that. On the right hand door, this would turn the other way, and so if you end up with a right hand set of brackets, they aren't going to work on a left hand door, and vice versa. Okay, so you'll see now how this comes out. We slide it across, it gets to that gap, the middle wheel drops down a little bit, and then you can just just able to drop down, and then the wheel comes out the top like so. So we have our cable from our solar going in there, which just cramps it up a little bit, but it still does enable it to come out. So as we had the door off, we did also notice that there was some little bits of rust here, particularly back at this end, which we took the opportunity to grind out and repair, and that's partway through that process there, just with a primer on it, because when the door is open, it kind of only opens to about there, so you can't access some of those spots. You can't access inside here if you did have rust anywhere in there, and it's very difficult to access some bits like that, as well as on the door, you know, underneath the bottom edge and in this inside edge, particularly on the other side of the door. If I lift this up, you know, areas like this here, there you can see I've ground that. I haven't primed that yet, but you can't get to those places when the door's on, so it's a good time to do a bit of maintenance and just get things ship shape. We think it's going to be easier to put this in to its runners first, lift the door up, and then hook it in the back down there, and then one person can hold this end of the door and the other person can just put the bolts in.
Up. Stop.
Okay, so we've got it in the back end and we're just holding it and trying to
Up.
screw it in. That's it. Great job. And the top one.
This one isn't going to work, so we need this one.
Up like
yeah,
that.
that's it.
So, second to go.
I don't think so. We need it to go that way a bit. Hang on, up now. Up. Can you do it up?
Yeah.
Let me loosen this one slightly. Okay, and then we'll do the other one. Forward a bit. There, just hold it there.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so those are in loosely now. I will tighten them up, but we'll first tighten up the other one at the bottom. So we've got this new wheel on the arm, and we're going to just get it in between there, like so. So it runs between those two plastic pieces in that slot. We've got that ready. Now that's in. Now we're going to attach it to the bottom of the door. You can see there's a slot there, so all of these things are slightly adjustable to ensure that everything meets up with all the connectors and everything between the edge of the door and the frame, because they need to meet exactly, otherwise the door won't close properly. Okay, so this bracket with this set of wheels goes up at the top up there. You can just see the new one there, and it has slots in it which, as you can see, allow a little bit of up and down adjustment. The one at the bottom down there, which goes under the step, is like so, and it also has a little bit of up down adjustment. And then the one that sits in the back end of the door there, which we can see from the inside, has only one bolt holding it in, which goes through that hole there, and it's got this tab which, if I show you here, you can see the little tab sticking out, which is just there, and there's the one bolt. So it moves with the tab moves within that slot, which moves the entire bracket either further back or further forward in the door. And there is also then, because this tab here has a little bit of wiggle room on the top and bottom, there is a little bit of adjustment like this, which allows you to slightly alter the height of the door at the back. Now all those things are quite important, which I'll show you in a moment. So if you look in there you have the latch, which is actually at the back of the door, and that latch clamps onto or latches onto this bar here. That bar is fixed in position. There's no adjustment on it. So looking in from the outside then, you can just see the latch there, and it's very hard to see now but with the camera, but the bar that it latches onto is just behind it. So when we set the door up, and it's important that the door is properly balanced in terms of how it sits within the frame, we loosened this back bolts slightly but not a great deal, in order that I could lift the door from the back. The person helping could then use a screwdriver to lever that little tab left or right, thereby adjusting the position of the bracket, which sits behind here on the door this way or this way, and then tighten up the bolts. And that way we got it so that when this door closes, you can see we have enough clearance for the back of the door to come past the back panels. If your that tab is too far, for example, to the front, the door will sit to the back and you might get that clashing, which obviously we don't want. The door's not going to close properly. And if it's too far the other way, the door will be too far forward, and you'll either have a problem at the front of the door where it will foul and not close, or it's not going to clamp properly onto or latch properly onto the bar that's fixed to the inside of the door frame there. So take your time and get those things right. And then obviously also we've got this up and down adjustment on that bracket and this bracket. Get your door such that these male ends slot correctly into these female ends here, and here your power lines up with your plugs on this side, and ultimately when you close your door you have nothing fouling and you have a nice consistent even gap from top to bottom there, and a similar nice consistent even gap from top to bottom there. So I had a bit of trouble with this new arm here, and with its the base of it over here scraping on the bottom underneath the step there, and so I just compared the two quite carefully. So I put them both flat like that on the step, and I had a look from here at the two arms and the two wheels, and I noticed that at the time I did it that they were kind of like that. So this new one was a lot lower than the old one, and I figured that this here wasn't bent at quite the right angle, so I just went and popped it in my vise on my workbench and just bent it down a little bit, so hopefully that will work better and it won't foul on the bottom. So there's also some lateral adjustment on some of these brackets, which I'll show you in a minute, but you can see there that the door is not pressing up against the seal down there, and there's also a little bit of light coming through at the top here. So I need to pull the door in a bit. If you have a look there, you can see that there's a bit of a slot there, so this has got some adjustment to pull the door in there at the top bracket, and also down here there's two Allen key screws which allow you to bring this in and pull the door in a bit again. They're slotted underneath, so that just will allow us to pull the door a little closer and press it up against the seal. Okay, so I've adjusted those brackets to pull the door in a bit, and it's all touching. There's obviously just a gap in the trim there, but otherwise it's all up against the seal. And the same up here, I've got no light coming through, so that should be good.